Hello everybody, how are you guys doing? Welcome back to another video. This is my match preview for the Leicester City versus Manchester City game. Manchester City will play Leicester City in the King Power Stadium. A tough game indeed, especially after the international break where our rhythm isn't as fluid. Obviously the international break has given the likes of Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne to recover. Manchester City posted images of Phil Foden and De Bruyne training, which is very good to see, so they could potentially feature maybe on the bench for this game. Now, two players that may not feature against Leicester are Gabriel Jesus and Edison. The reason why they will not feature is because Brazil asked FIFA to invoke a 5-day rule for Brazilian players that were called up but did not travel due to Brazil being in the red list. So that means the Brazilian players that were called up and were not able to travel will be banned. If Man City or other English clubs who have Brazilian players disobey the 5-day rule, then as per Article 22 of FIFA's disciplinary code, they may incur an automatic forfeit. In my opinion, this is ridiculous by the Brazilian FA, especially in a COVID world. I mean, why are we still playing international games randomly in the middle of the season where players are struggling for fitness, testing positive, having to quarantine? It's absolutely ridiculous by FIFA. On top of that, Zack Steffen, Edison's number 2, will also not feature in the game as he has tested positive during the international break for the US national team, so he will be out for a bit. So that does mean that Scott Carson may start against Leicester. A team like Leicester, Edison's distribution would have helped us out massively, especially as Leicester sit back and counter-attack us, a system that we are vulnerable against, especially when you have a certain Jamie Vardy who loves scoring against us, and it does worry me. The last time Scott Carson played was against Newcastle, in which we conceded 3 goals, but none of the goals were really Carson's fault, as all the goals came from set pieces. I know Leicester are better than Newcastle, so it will totally be a different game and such. So we will have to see what happens and how we will line up, I guess. Kieran Slicker from the under 23s could possibly start, or he may feature as Carson's deputy if the ban does take place. So looking at Leicester City, they've started off their season a little inconsistent. They beat us for the Charity Shield. They then started off their season well with a 1-0 win against Wolves, but then they get a beating by David Moyes' West Ham 4-1, but then they beat Norwich away 2-1, so it started up and down for them. Like I said before, it will be a very hard game as we do at times struggle to break down Leicester as they defend really well against us by sitting deep. Brendan Rodgers has always made it difficult for us to beat them. They have a fantastic midfield of Wilfred Ndidi, Yuri Tielemans, James Maddison, who are a brilliant pair as well. They've also strengthened their team with the likes of Patson Daka and Adamello Lookman. Leicester's recruitment is fantastic. And Jamie Vardy, we all know Vardy is a guy who loves scoring so many goals against us. He will be our biggest threat for this game. And let's not forget our former boy Iheanacho, who scored a penalty against us in the Community Shield. So we will have to see what happens, I guess. So let's look at what Pep said during his press conference. Pep starts off by talking about the international break. We have 3 weeks to prepare, but not before that, and then we have an international break, and then 3 weeks, and after an international break. It is the same for the past 10 years. We have to adjust and adapt to what we have to do. Nearly all football fans complain about the international break getting in the way of club football, as sometimes that breaks up the team's rhythm and such. Right now, at 1:35, it's still not clear. Hopefully, they can play. We are going to wait until tomorrow. I don't understand the situation. I don't know what we can do. It's difficult as Argentina players go to Brazil and can't play. Brazilian players, when they shouldn't travel, would have been the same. They travel there, don't allow to play for quarantine. If they do it so they can't play in Brazil and can't play here, if they don't fly, they are suspended because they are here. It makes no sense. And again, I still don't get why we have international breaks, even with the current pandemic and such. It doesn't make sense to me. And this could possibly be the reason why we see more and more players injured nowadays. Pep talks about Scott Carson and if the Brazilian ban does take in place, will he start? He's in our squad because he's able to play. I'm fully confident. And finally, we get an update on Phil Foden and Kevin De Bruyne. Yesterday, Phil had his first training session. Kevin trained good the last week, part alone, part with the other players who were here and the under 18s. They feel much better. Now, this brings us nicely to the team news. As we know from before, Edison and Gabriel Jesus are suspended for this game at the moment. We don't know what will happen or whether this ban will take place. Zack Steffen will also not feature for this game after he tested positive during the international break. Now, for Leicester City, James Justin will not make it for this game because of previous injury, from what I know. Wesley Fofana is out till 2022 after suffering an horrific injury in pre-season, and Ayoze Perez is still suspended after he received a red card in Leicester's 4-1 loss against West Ham. So let's predict Manchester City's lineup for this game. In net, I think it will be Scott Carson if Edison is banned. So that means Scott Carson will be a net. Now, the defence, I've gone with Kyle Walker, John Stones, Ruben Diaz, and Joao Cancelo. Walker was excellent for England during the international break. Stones was actually good as well. And Ruben Diaz and Cancelo both did well for Portugal. Now, in midfield, I think Fernandinho will play in this game. I'm not sure if the ban actually applies to him or if it applies to players that were called up and didn't go. I'm not sure if it's all Brazilian players, but I do think Fernandinho will probably play. I've then gone with Ilkay Gundogan and Jack Grealish. I think Grealish will be playing as a number 10 in this game because the front line I've gone with Mahrez, Raheem Sterling and Ferran Torres. I think Riyad Mahrez will be back. He actually plays well against his former team for some reason, and Raheem Sterling also plays well against Leicester City. And I think Ferran Torres will be playing up front. Ferran Torres was great for Spain during the international break. It will be great to see him carry on from that form. So let's predict Leicester City's lineup for this game. In net for them is obviously their captain Kasper Schmeichel. I think they will go with their last defence with Pereira, Amati, Soyuncu and Thomas, who all started against Norwich. And then in midfield, I think they'll go with Wilfred, Ndidi, Tielemans and Maddison. That is a brilliant midfield for Leicester City. And up front is obviously going to be Jamie Vardy. I think Barnes will be playing in this game and Mark Albrighton. So that is a very good team. Maybe the defence isn't as good because it isn't really their first choice defence at the moment, but the midfield, the attack is really good, and Leicester are looking very, very good, especially with the depth of Adamelo Lookman and Patson Daka. They look fantastic. So let's look at my prediction. I think Manchester City will win this game 2-1. Obviously, things could be different if Edison and Jesus start or not. Even with Scott Carson, I still think we could win this game. Obviously, playing against Leicester will be tough, but we will have to see what happens, I guess. So guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please do like this video. Please do subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in my next video.